Hello, hello, hello. We are live in our Worthy Collective Love and Loss message. And this is series one of four with the beautiful wellness practitioner, Stacey Duffie. And I'm going to share a little bit more about her if you don't already know. She's the proud mom of five amazing daughters, grandma to two young boys, and has been a wellness practitioner for over 10 years with the focus on nutrition, hypnotherapy, and a variety of modalities. Her passion is guiding others to connect mind, body, and soul for lasting well being. And so tonight, what I thought I would do and I didn't say this before yet, so wherever you are, whether you're watching this live with us, if you're on the replay, I know this is a tricky subject to talk about. And the Worthy Collective, we talk about tricky things. We talk about hard things. We talk about the elephant in the room. We bring to the point the concerns of women today. And I wanted to light a candle in my office, and my mom is here with me, with us. Um, and this light represents the love and the loss. And it can be of a person, it can be of an experience, it can be of a situation, it can be loss really represents a lot. And so Stacey's going to most specifically talk to the loss of a person and her experience and giving insight and her journey. And in her extra personal development and education certifications, she's gone down a very specific healing route so that she can serve others. And so there's so many representations of loss. And I thought by lighting this candle that it can represent whatever amount of loss that you're here tonight or you're watching the replay on, and recognizing that that light shines in the darkness. And that's what we want to remind you of in anything, whether you're in it right now, you're out of it, or you're going into something, and recognizing that that form of loss represents so much. And we want to make sure that you know that this is a sacred space, and that if you join us next week and you're not ready to be on video, you don't want to say anything, you want to be here listening in, we are grateful. And if you'd rather feel more comfortable about getting the replay from your friend, we're grateful, because so many of us have represented a multitude of loss. And we want to make sure that you recognize that this space is especially for you. And Tracy said, I lit my candles for my beautiful friend Jackie. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Maybe after Stacy's finished, you can share, because that was very special. I think that was about a month ago, in remembrance of what you did. So, oh, and one more thing. Sorry, one second. What we recognize in the Worthy Collective, we really want to share this sacred space and let you know that this is your sacred space. It's a gathering place for women from all walks of life, whether you're here to rise in your health, reclaim your wealth, deepen your faith, or realign your purpose in life or in business. There's no hierarchy, only humanity. We honor every woman's and man's journey, knowing that this may be passed on to someone in our life that has experienced loss. Typically, our Worthy Collective, we have a number of events that are circled around women, and we're definitely wanted to leave room for this love and loss for all of us. We know what growth looks like, and it's different for all of us. You're not behind, you're not too late, you're right on time. We give grace, we grow, we remember who we are together. Welcome home to our Worthy Collective and Stacey Duffie.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you everyone for joining us today. This is sometimes it can be a really hard subject to talk about, and there are other times that I can talk about it freely. So I may get very emotional. I may be able to talk right through this. So let's see how we do. So I wanted to open with my story. My story was I was 25 years old. I was happily married. I had two daughters, and I was pregnant with my fourth one. It was Memorial Weekend in 1994, and we had just come home from a picnic at a family member's. I was getting the girls ready for bed, and my husband stepped across the street to visit his brother who lived there. I heard some shouting, so I went to go investigate. I walked outside and noticed some things going on. Things just didn't look right. And before I knew it, everything happened so quickly. My husband was being a good Samaritan and trying to get some punk kids out of the neighborhood. And one of them was very upset. He did not like how my husband spoke to him. So they started arguing back and forth. He told him to get out of the neighborhood. And as they drove away, the boy leaned out of the car and shot my husband. Um, I witnessed all this. My two daughters had come out behind me. However, I did not know that at the time. I knew they came out, I thought they came out after that, but a few years later, like 14 years later, we were going through some counseling with my oldest daughter, and they decided to have us draw pictures of that night and to tell their story. And we went around the table. And needless to say, I was in tears because my two daughters like gave the story, and I didn't talk about it. So I knew that was something that they had seen, and that crushed me. That it for that many years I had held this to myself and didn't grieve. I just held everything in, and I wish maybe I would have spoke up sooner with them, so maybe they could have told me before then. But anyways, so with this story, he was shot that night, and he ended up going in the hospital. He didn't pass away right away. So we sat there. Doctors told me, hey, there's a 4% chance he's going to make it. Well, to me, that 4% was a percent. It was enough. He was going to make it. He was a strong man. And I had to uh, go into the room and see him like that. That was very devastating to me because, like I said, this to me, he was this huge man, strong. I felt protected. I felt all of this. And I lost all of that that night. I lost myself. I lost, everything. Anybody that's had a loss can understand that. Um, but I spiraled inside and kept all of this in. I lived in denial and anger, denial for a couple of years because I just said, I'm going to wake up one day and he's just going to be back. I knew that was crazy. I thought I was going crazy a lot of the time. But the one feeling that I lived in the longest was anger. I was so angry for this happening to him, for my children not having their dad. Now I had to give birth alone. I have to do first day of school, first tooth, all of these things all alone. So I lived in anger for a very long time. Um, and I wasn't really a nice person a lot of the time. I tried to be, but it was really hard going through that. Then the depression set in. And now I am in the acceptance of this loss, and I am forgiving myself for not doing the right things through all of this. Excuse me. And learning how to process all of this. And it's been a long journey. It really I started it over probably about 5 years ago. I started really working on myself, but I kept the grief over there. I was working on everything else. And then I had a friend who had a huge loss in July of last year. And being with her and trying to, be there for her and help her. And it was just pulling all of these emotions up to the surface. And there were days where I just stuff them down and I could deal with all of it, but it started to really overcome me. and forced me to really deal with a lot of this. And I did some of it alone. Um, but thank God I had my ladies here in the collective who were there as I started going through this and helped guide me through it. I've done a lot of research um, and just tried to feel my feelings out and understand why I was feeling that way, what was going on. During this time, I turned against God. Not totally. I still know he's there and stuff, but I was angry with him too. And through this journey, I've found God again too. I'm still questioning some things, but I have good resources to go to when these things do start playing in my mind. Um, it's just gotten to the point where daily something is bubbling up and it's either a quick release or it feels like a volcano. And learning to deal with those as they come, not holding them in, is a lot more freeing, even though I had control of them and now I don't, which is something I'm really working on because I like to have control of things. And everything is not in our control, and it makes life a lot harder when you try to control things. So I'm learning to just live and work through them. Along this journey, I've also opened back up. My intuition has become a lot stronger. That is something that I buried back then too, because seconds prior to all of this happening, I saw all of it happening. And I went to scream to tell him to move, to run, and nothing came up. And I feel that an angel was with me that night because it wouldn't have just been me if something happened, because I was actually closer to the man who shot him than he was to my husband. So during all of this and finding God and really starting this healing, I drive to work an hour and a half. And usually it's very dark because it's, 4:15 in the morning to like almost 6. I started getting these downloads of things and thoughts. And the one that really resonated with me and really connected me back to God was, "You never doubted he was with me," referring to Frank. I always knew he was in heaven. I knew he was with God. That's where I talked to him all the time. But I didn't trust God for myself. And that was a big turning point for me. I did trust him through this, but I turned my back on him and tried to do it alone. And he was there with me through this. It's proven, because I don't think I'd be here without that. So right now, my journey is an acceptance and releasing and growing from here. Um, Even though they're gone, the love remains, but it's how grief has reshaped it that love is a little different. This is a quote that Maggie shared with me that I really love from Karen Gibbs, and it's grief is love with no place to go. And with that said, does anyone have anything that they want to share or any comments or anything? I did not bring myself any Kleenex.
Stacey, I just want to say thank you for bringing this space to everyone. And I am just, that's the first time that I've heard the story completely. And I just want to say you've just got so much courage and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And a lot of it, and a lot of this growth has been with all of you, which, like I said to Lori, I said, I feel like, I don't know, I feel special standing, but you guys are my wings. You're right there with me. And I appreciate all the encouragement and all the love from all of you. And Tracy, you've made me jump out in front of the camera with your your videos. I've been posting daily.
Oh,
Just
wow.
yeah, and I'm slowly gonna tell this story in parts. Um, because there's a little bit more to the night that I haven't finished with,
Mm.
but that I just want to tell up to a certain point and then just go on and where I am, where my girls are today, because they were toddlers when that happened. And we've had 3 graduations, 2 grandbabies, um, 2 weddings. These are all things that he has not been a part of. And to watch them on those days is really hard. My oldest has his signature on her foot. And the reason she got that is so that when she did walk down the aisle, he was with her.
Wow, that's so
I got to
special.
walk her down the aisle, but he was with us. And then I took Frankie's bouquet when she got married, and I hid a picture of him in there in her bouquet. So she had him with her when she walked down the aisle. And I don't think Ashley's going to get married, so I don't know what I'm going to do for her. But she agrees. She doesn't want to get married either.
That's funny.
Thank you for sharing, Stacey. That
Oh, thank
beautiful.
you.
Thank you. I
Thank
know it
you.
wasn't easy.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, like you said, sometimes it's easier to tell strangers than it is to tell people that you know.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. So along with that night, they did ask me to go in there and that there was no brain activity and I would have to make a decision, which is horrible to make. And they wanted his organs. That was something that really bothered me. They just keep coming with that. And you're like, I'm in no place to think about this. So I went into him and I laid down on his chest, and that was my safe space. Whenever I needed comfort, put my head on his chest and I listened to that. Doop, doop, doop. I loved his heartbeat. When I laid on his chest, that wasn't his heartbeat I heard. It was the machines. So I asked him that if he couldn't come back to me, because he told me if anything ever happens to me and I can't come back to you 100%, you have to let me go. So I then told him that if he could not come back to me 100%, I was letting him go. And then they rushed me out of the room because he coded and he passed. So I did not have to make the decision. He made that for me. Yeah. And then a couple of days later, we were at the funeral home and they walk you into this home. And I mean, we were young. We didn't have money for, a funeral, let alone a casket, all that stuff. And they take you into a room with all these beautiful caskets. This is your loved one. You have to put in somewhere. And I'm like, and they're like, well, this is what you can afford. And it was literally a pine box with fabric over it. And I was like, and I ran out. I couldn't handle it. But earlier that day at that picnic, the family picnic, my husband told me how he wanted his funeral. He told me to bury him in a pine box because it doesn't matter what you're in, because he had worked for a cemetery and he had to dig up people. Somebody wanted a ring, so they had to pull it up. So he watched that and he's like, people are disgusting. Once you're in the ground, leave them there. And it bothered him. And she was very rich, but there was still water in there. Nothing, it didn't protect her like you think it would. It was just for show. And he said, put me in a pine box, play knocking on heaven's door. Don't let them take any of my organs. Make sure they don't take a very important thing to him. And I had to make sure it was still there. And he did not want to be in a suit. He wanted to be in sweats and he didn't want any shoes on. So as I'm standing outside thinking about the casket, all of this comes to me. So I go walking back in and I said, we'll take that green casket there, or that blue casket there. There was a green and blue. We took the blue. And I told them we want knocking on heaven's door and this and that. And they let me do his hair because I was his hairstylist. So they put him in the casket. I went in, did his hair, and then I made sure that everything was there, which you can imagine what he wanted me to make sure was still there. And his aunt walked in and caught me. So that was a family joke for a while. And I said, but he made me promise. He made me promise. So that's our personal joke after you're on mute. My children don't know this.
Is there a story that that's taken?
What do you mean?
Like, it's not something I've ever heard of.
No, but he was saying, he'd always joke, how men do. And he was
About their
24.
fish.
Yeah, about their fish.
Oh,
So
the fish.
if you want to know more about the fish, you have to see.
Watch the replay.
You have to watch the replay of
Yeah.
Water Today session 12 because
Yes.
I missed the details of the fish.
I love your example of it better though.
Register so you can get the replay, guys, because it's really great.
Right.
It was not my best hour, but it's okay.
No,
It does
that
make
was
it laugh.
amazing.
So I was like, wait a second, are we talking about what I think we're talking about? Are we talking about a fish? Ah. Oh man. I was like, what are you taking? Because it's not, well, I guess that's in Oregon, kind of. Okay.
I'm like, why would they take it anyways? It's like, just do it. But I mean, he told me even like, I want to say it was a year or two before that, we were driving home from family thing and the girls were asleep in the car. And I said, oh, can you imagine when we had seen his mom, I think, so grandparents were around. I said, can you imagine when we're sitting on our porch in our rocking chairs and our grandbabies running around? And he looked at me and said, we're not going to grow old together. And I was like, stab me in the heart. That was so rude. And he's like, I'm not going to live to be 25. I'm like, don't say that. Please don't say that. Yeah.
How old was he?
24. Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. He knew. He told me, and I'm glad he did because he made things easier for me. And he has visited me through the years also. Weird things. In our house, after he passed away, the house that we lived in, the TV would just turn on. And then I'd get up to go turn it off and it'd turn off. And just a light would turn on. Things would be moved. Just little things like that.
Sending you messages.
Yeah. And then I would get downloads from him a lot, because the person who killed him did go to jail. He did serve 23 years. He got 25 to 50 years. He was a 17-year-old kid, ruined his life, just turned 17 like the month before. They let him go in, I think it was 2018, 17 or 18. It was one of those years. And what was the other thing I was going to say? I lost my train of thought. Anyways, I have through this, I didn't deal with my grief, my anger. When I started to get out of my anger is when I started to forgive him. And that came for years. Like I worked through that through a few years because I always thought he's 17, he's in prison. What is this kid going through? That was after I got over I want him, to have the death penalty and all that stuff. But then I got to that point, he's somebody's kid. How is his mom dealing with this? And slowly I pushed that through. And then finally, in the last few years, I have forgiven him. I won't forget. He's out in the world. Somebody portrayed that they were him to one of my daughters on Facebook and was messaging her and all this stuff. We finally found out that it wasn't him. So I called his parole officer to let him know that if anything popped up, because he's not to have any contact with us at all, none whatsoever, that if it popped up, it was not him. And the guy was like, who am I talking to? I'm like, Stacey Duffie, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I have never, ever had somebody in your place call me and stick up for somebody that has done what he had done to your family. And I said, just tell him, well, because he called me back and said that he wanted to give me a thank you for doing that for him. And I said, just please tell him to make something of the second chance he has.
Wow.
Right. Very good.
That's so beautiful, Stacey.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So can I ask a question? Was he spiritual with you?
Frank,
Yeah.
he believed in God, but that's about the extent of it. He never talked bad. He didn't, he was raised by a single mom. She was always working, so they had spent a lot of time by themselves and stuff. And I just don't think it was like, available. Maybe when he was younger, but not when I met him.
Hmm.
But like he was pretty much raised by his great grandmother,
Great.
and she passed like 2 years prior to him. So he had people waiting for him.
I'm looking down in my desk, and I know you guys will not be surprised. Believe me, bigger.
Oh.
I did it today. Yeah, and I think this is so perfect. Magnificent thinking. Finally, believers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, worthy of respect, whatever is right and confirmed by God's word, whatever is pure, wholesome, whatever is lovely and brings peace, whatever is admirable and of good repute. If there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think continually on these things. Center your mind on them and implant them in your heart. Philippians 4:8. And what I think, Stacey, is the magnificent thinking that you chose because you didn't have to forgive him because, I mean, you didn't have to. It was not required. Yet when you did, that ripple effect that really truly happened, and especially to take the time to let him know, I mean, that's one of the most beautiful gifts to give someone who made a mistake. Our mistakes that we make in life are instrumental in our learning. That one's probably the top of the list, though, because there wasn't a reverse.
Right. And I just think of the stupid things I did at 17.
Oh, stupid things we still, like
Right.
those
Yeah.
choices where you're
Yeah.
like, I think this is good, or, and for whatever reason, yeah.
I just knew I had to let that go for me.
Mhm.
And now I'm working on letting his family, forgiving them for not being there
Mhm.
because everyone grieves differently. And
Mhm.
I expected them to be there, especially his mom,
Mhm.
but I'm a mom and I couldn't imagine.
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine, but me as a mom, those grandbabies would be in my arms.
Yeah.
Try and take them away from me. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And that's not what happened. She was there for his brother's kids,
Mhm.
always, still is there, but not for my three.
Mhm.
And that really hurt. And then aunts, and like I mean, I mentioned in this conversation several times that we were family events. He was very family oriented. We were always with his family. And just it was like everybody always went to the aunt's house, and then all of a sudden everybody was there and I was an outcast
Mhm.
because I didn't stay in the home. They came and raided my home and took what they wanted while I was at the hospital. Or actually at the funeral. No, I was at the funeral home. I was at the funeral home making the arrangements, and they came in and took the things they wanted of his. Yeah. It was ugly. It was really ugly. And I mean, I've watched other people's families go through, deaths too, and it happens. You know, everybody's, like I said, everybody's grieving, everybody grieves differently, and some need to, have something to hold on to forever, and others, are just okay with, their own memories and not what he left behind.
Mm.
So that abandonment was really hard
Mm.
because, like I said, we were young. My mom and dad paid for his plot. That was their gift to me, is to purchase his plot. They purchased that one and the one next to it so I could be put with him.
Mhm.
But I since sold that to his aunt to bury his grandmother.
Oh.
And I will be cremated, and the girls have the option of half of me goes in the ocean and the other half they can put in there, or they can do whatever they want with it.
Mhm.
But I thought it would be good for them to have me there. And my younger two are okay with that because they've grown up around the cemetery also
Mhm.
in the past few years. Because there were a lot of years there that I drive by, but I can't stop.
Mhm.
And the days that I feel overcome to do it, because it's right on the way to my parents' house every time I go to my parents. So I get those I gotta stop, you know. And I take my grandsons out there. We've got pictures of them as being little up to, my big 12-year-old grandson now of
Wow.
them out there with them. Yeah. And you did ask if he was spiritual, and I believe that he was more than he let on
Mhm.
because of the presence that he has shown from the
Mm.
other side.
Mhm.
Because like my number four, which is not his, was about 3 years old, and she was playing and she's doing a tea party. She's setting up the tea and she's talking and everything. And then she puts everything and she's like, okay, you got to go now. Walks over to the door and kind of like just hits the door and says bye, like she opened it and shut it. And we're watching her. We're like, who are you talking to? She's like, Chanel, Ashley, and Frankie's blue dad, duh. And walked away. And we were like,
Oh my God, I just got goosebumps. That's amazing.
there was a lot of activity in that house, not just him. So yeah, it was like, wow. And then other things happened there. But yeah, it
He
was,
said blue,
yeah, blue dad.
blue.
Every picture I have of him, he's either in a red shirt or a green shirt. And he looked like he was, I don't know, he's dark hair, dark features. He looked like he was and I don't know what it was that he said. What did he say he was? He kept telling me he was Irish, but I told him he was crazy because the Duffie name is Irish. I get that, but he had jet black hair and olive skin.
Mm.
So my daughters did do a DNA test, and they found out that there's a small amount of Albanian,
Mhm.
Greek, and a little bit of Italian. So
Mm.
maybe that's where it's from.
Mm. But she would say blue.
Yeah. She would say blue dad. Like, and she looked at us like we were like,
Don't you see
like
it
that
too?
3-year-old attitude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
didn't you see him? Why are
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
asking me?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah. And how he was with children, he would have, had he physically been there, he would have been in there having a tea party with her if she asked.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So I have the question that comes with today, um, because the best way to handle most situations is the opportunity of learning. And um the I'm going to read this page because I think we didn't not plan this, but I think it's really beautiful. Um because there's so much depth to loss. And I know in her notes that I was hoping I represented it well. It is death, divorce, our identities, the health, our dreams. There's so many losses. The people that we thought were going to be lifetime people, and they became a season in our life, or they became that reason. And so, in this day, if you have the book, it's day 46. So often our thoughts can become hijacked by the warnings and lazy words of other people, like the experience that you had with his family. It may seem like wisdom, but it's really just limiting beliefs filled with fear, regret, and passed down sayings that are not anchored in God's truth or intention. The Bible tells us to think of the very specific things from above, not obsess over the advice or opinions of others. And it does not say that we should accept circumstances as if they are to guide our thoughts of what's possible in the future. Instead, the word tells us exactly what to think about. Think about things that are pure, true, worthy of respect, and what is confirmed by God's word. Our thoughts make way for our feelings, and our feelings influence our choices, perceptions, and ultimately our beliefs. We are what we believe. So let us not be lazy or casual with our thoughts, and let us not come into an agreement with messages of doom and gloom, sickness or difficulty. Center your mind on the magnificent. And the question that comes with this, and I thought it was beautiful, what old sayings and passed down opinions have lured you into believing that life is hard as opposed to magnificent? And I believe that a lot of times in a loss, we can see how others deal with loss or they don't deal with loss. Like I never heard the story, and maybe I missed it all these years that I've known you, that the family came in and took things. I mean, you already had the biggest loss of your life. You didn't need the loss of things because those things could have been your memories and, whatever that may have been. And that's such an obstruction. And yet they were doing what they thought was right, which was, oh my gosh, like, and, we can see it now and be like, wow, how awful. And yet challenges bring out the best and the worst of us. They absolutely does. And loss is the greatest fear in our lives. Like when we do really think about something that can be scary, and that's what we don't want to face. And it sounds like he talked about it for a reason. Yet I also believe that in which those speak about, sometimes they're more likely to bring it about. I mean, have you ever done that? Like, I don't want to drop this. I don't want to drop this. And all of a sudden,
Yes.
crash and burn. Or, gosh, I don't want to trip over that. Hello. Welcome to what you just said. I know I've said it before, like, oh, I don't want to spill this. I don't want to spill this. Okay, then don't freaking spill it. Think of something else. Like, I got this. I got this. Rob and I were talking about this, that like statement that you bring yourself to instead of the I don't want, I'm not going to look over there. I'm not going to look over there. Oh, well, guess what? Or like it's when somebody says, oh, don't look at my hat. It has a giant hole. Well, I'm looking now. Like, I probably wouldn't even have seen the hole if you didn't say anything. So, in that awareness, being able to, if you choose, being able to journal on what old sayings, what's passed down, opinions. And I caught somebody today at this event I went to, and we were talking about mental health and wellness around our thinking and our believing and our remembering. And she goes, well, it's hereditary. And I said, I don't think so. And her eyes were like this big. I said, because I don't believe I'm gonna live each day like that. Because then it means I'm just wiping out my identity and the chances of making a different choice.
Good for you.
And she was
Good
like,
for you. Yeah, she was not expecting that response, was she?
Yeah. What was her response back?
oh, huh. Well, I guess I've looked at some holistic things, but maybe I should look at more.
Oh,
I was like,
good for
well,
you.
you know, like
For years, spreading that.
right down to the simplicity of getting the kids' teeth cleaned today. And the woman's like, you don't want fluoride? And I'm like, haven't wanted fluoride for what? For quite some time now. Like some of those things we start to learn that weren't really meant for us, but they're pushed and they're pushed and they're pushed. And when you stop and say, is there another way? Is there something that might be better for me?
Mhm.
And there's options and there's choices. And the difference is, you guys have been around me and anyone who's new to this, and what happens is we have this lovely little tissue. One corner's friends, one's family, one's business, one's maybe fun and, education or a different part of our lives. And when we start to elevate, certain people will come with that elevation and some don't. And we're not meant to keep everyone. And that elevation can be our greatest gift in life. And that's what love and loss is. It's one thing that I've been recognizing in these interviews with women and the wise women interviews, the inner view, is that women have experienced an array of loss.
Yeah.
Losses that some of us have never experienced yet, because all of us don't know what tomorrow brings by any means. And yet, what is so remarkable in understanding that that loss can look like a friendship, it can look like a job, it can look like so many people experience different things in COVID and losses of friendships and relationships and opportunities and choices and doctors and all sorts of things that completely changed. And the beautiful thing is, if you take 1% of that love that you gave that person, that situation, and you return it back to yourself, it does have an opportunity to go somewhere. It goes back to yourself. So as much as I love this quote, grief is love with no place to go, it is so true, especially in those steps. And a lot of what Stacey's going to talk about is those steps. And I always think of the footprints in the sand where, we think of us in our walk in our faith, and yet which is it? Us trying to walk by ourselves, or is it God carrying us and he's carrying us? Whose footsteps? Well, it's hard to say because it's all of choice.
Mm.
Or not required. And so if you think of that opportunity of the 1% and being able to come back to yourself, just one. I mean, I'm not saying that 100% you gave that person, or depending on that person, could have been 110 sometimes, that like absolute, you cannot quite explain. Yeah, 1% of that to give back to yourself. And I love the beauty of Stace. I'm not sure which part, which week you're going to share about the book that you read about signs, and being open to that opportunity to see those places and spaces, to feel that absolute love. And I know when Mark's grandmother passed away and he was in a place, as we all are when death comes around and we question so many things, it's natural. It's absolute natural because there's so much out of control and people are out of control because people in their greatest fear step back instead of, and I can tell you that from having Lucy early in Texas, because later on in life, some of my closest friends said, I didn't call you because I didn't know what to say. And I was like, what? Make the freaking call. I was by myself in a freaking hospital in Texas, Dallas, Texas. And I can tell you who called me. Less than 5 people, because they were all thinking about themselves. More people step back than they step in out of fear because they just don't know what to do and say. And that's exactly what you do. I don't know what you need. I don't know what to say. I can ask you what you need because I can guarantee you they're not going to tell you a car. They're not going to tell you $1 million, all these things that you think. They're going to say, I'm not sure. Or they might say, I need a meal. They might say, can you just sit here? Can you just be with me? Like that presence is something you can't quite explain until you've seen challenge and you've seen things that you would never want to see again. Yet the opportunity and the choice that we all have in those lessons, and it can be the most beautiful thing. Um, I learned one of the greatest lessons with having Lucy in the hospital in Texas. There was 83 beds in the NICU, and one woman I kept seeing all the time, and I was so afraid to talk to her because her son was born with all of his organs outside of his body, and they had done a number of surgeries. And I was afraid to talk to her because Lucy would have a good day, and I didn't want to say anything. And so finally, I just got the best of me. I was like, wow, what a hypocrite. Here you are. You could be so helpful to her, and yet you don't because you're afraid of what kind of day she had. Maybe she needs you. Maybe you need her. And so finally, like towards the end, I was like, do you want to go to dinner? She's like, yes. We had the best
Oh,
time and we cried. And when she lost her son because he didn't have a long life expectancy, and I called and Mark was in the background. What are you going to say? I don't know. And I didn't expect her to answer, to be honest. I didn't think. And yet I also knew that her phone probably didn't ring much because nobody knew what to say. And that's the opportunity we have in the hardest times of people's lives. We don't step back because when we do, it's about us. And when we step in, it's about them. And that loss can look like so many different things because we relive those losses. And until we have new conversations, until we have new stories, until have new opportunities, until we have new relationships that give us reminders that there's hope, there's opportunity out there to live differently. And we don't live without them, we live with them.
hmm.
And it's our greatest gift that we get to pass on.
I
Trace,
agree.
do you want to share what you had done a couple weeks ago?
Sure. So I thought Jackie was going to be on here. She was going to try, but she's in Australia, so it would have meant that she had to get up a little bit earlier because she has to get three kids ready for school. So she'll probably be listening to the replay. Love you, Jackie. Um, but Jackie ran the full marathon in remembrance of her husband who passed away 12
Mm.
months ago when they were on their family holiday in Italy. Mm. And his mum was there and aunt. Anyway, so she ran the marathon in memory of him. And it was the marathon that he had run previously. And because he was turning 42, we do kilometers. So she ran 42 kilometers
Mm.
for every year of his life. Um, and because I couldn't make it, and I used to run marathons, and we used to actually run together. And because I haven't been running or training or anything like that, I decided to run. Oh, sorry, I decided to walk 4 hours and 20 minutes. And during my walk, I felt Jackie the whole way, and it was really really special. Um, I even asked if I could see a magpie. So a magpie is a type of bird,
Mm.
and it represents Wayne, her husband,
Mm.
because there's two magpies that visit the family in their new home. And so
Mm.
my thing is I need to see a blackbird, right? Just so I know that he's close by. And when I said that, he appeared. And it was really, really special. So I had run and I was tracking her. So because it was, I had already run that afternoon, and then she was, I forget now, but then I was able to come home, and then she had started her run, and I was tracking her, but I felt every single run, like I knew where she was, and I was with her. I was so emotional. I couldn't get any work done because I was with her the whole way, and it was one of the most remarkable, incredible, special moments. It was absolutely amazing.
It's
And
beautiful.
such a beautiful choice that you made to be able to take the time out to do that. And also, I love that it was a walk. So it was
Mm.
probably a different kind of hard because running can be a good hard, but walking can take longer, especially if you used to run. You know,
Yeah.
it's
So I made sure I did a minimum of 21 kilometers, which is 13 miles. And the funny thing is that it started raining, right? And like so Wayne and Jackie like to have a drink, right? And I was always, so strict about, no, I'm training, so I can't have a drink or whatever. And Wayne would, always have a drink. And it was so half I was halfway and it started raining and there was a bar that I've been to before, which is super fun. I sat there and I had a margarita. I'm like, here you go, Wayne, cheers.
that's even more
That's
special.
that
And then
is
it stopped,
awesome.
then it stopped raining, had my drink, had something to eat, and then kept on going. It was like amazing.
That's beautiful. What a great tribute. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. And such a special opportunity to reset your immune system, being in
Yes.
nature and that opportunity of reflection, especially so young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was sudden. So
Mhm. Well, this will be something special for Jackie because I know we remember you
yeah.
and you're talking about your adventure.
Yeah.
And isn't that though of life, like you set out to do something and then it rains. And instead of giving up, you sat and you did something more special, like to the next level of remembrance, and you
Mm.
treated yourself to something special. You fueled your body, you know, and,
Yeah.
that joy from that. And then it cleared up. And how many times we want to rush everything, and instead you had something more than it was expected.
Yeah, and also just seeing the bird, Oh, man, I said, give me a message. Give me a message. And yeah, I got it. It's just amazing.
That's what Stacey's been sharing about this book that she was reading and the opportunity to ask. And oh, that's what
Yeah,
I was
that's
saying. That's what I
right.
was gonna say. So when Mark's grandma passed away, um, gosh, it was after we got married. So we hadn't had kids yet. We had just moved to this house. She wasn't well. So we go for the funeral and he's contemplating his faith. And I'm like, isn't it interesting how death brings about such a different thoughts? It brings out so many things, right? Because it's such a loss, such a mark of life. And I'll never forget. He's like, well, you know what? If there's God, I want to see a bumblebee. And I sat there and I was like, damn, you could have thought of something else. Like, what do you want to be stung? What do you just like, what are you crazy? And he was like, and I was like, okay, your wish is your command. And then I was like, please God, please God, please God. You know? So we go out to the car the next morning and his grandma's house is odd. It's so odd, or was odd. They sold it. It was a ranch, and it had the driveway where it pulled up here, no garage. Because the garage was actually like this driveway that went down below, and the garage was underneath. Well,
Mm,
they made the garage a living room because they needed more room, but the driveway still went there. So I think it was his uncle. Somebody went and got like a Yukon, something big where we could all ride together. Well, it was right next to this like stump. We're all getting in the car. Bees were everywhere.
That's
Oh,
great.
I
They
love
were
that.
everywhere. And I'm laughing and everyone's freaking out. They're freaking out like these things are gonna like sting them. And I was like, it was Mark. Just ask him. He asked to see bumblebees. And they were just like, what? And he's giving me the death stare. I was like, I told you
Mm,
you could have asked for something else. You could have asked for something way better than something that could leave you with a mark. So, yeah. And then when we got home, bumblebees were dead in our kitchen. Now, guys,
what?
I don't get bees. I get flies. Like right now, we have flies. They come in the garage. They come in we let the dogs out. There's flies. I've never since then, and maybe I will now again for a bit or so. But like, and I'd be like, well, there's bees. There's bees outside, and then they'd be dead in our house. And I was like, okay, I'm happy they're dead in our house, but when we were they alive in our house? And that's why I was giving them a hard time. I was like, well, what are they hiding out somewhere in our house? I'm like, I told you you could ask for something else. So it was sweet, but it's those asking and and being able to recognize that you will see what you concentrate on most. And so if there is something that you need, be able to ask. And we teach it in the Worthy Collective. Well, I teach it, I talk about it often. It's called the infinity loop. And you believe in yourself, you believe in your faith, you believe in universe, you believe in your kiddos, you believe in something specific. And then you realize at one point you're like, you know what? I need to ask for some support. I need to ask for some help. I need to ask something of someone. And then what happens is you allow that support, you allow that opportunity, you allow that encouragement, you allow that space, and then you receive.
Mm,
So many of us as women, whether you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, a mom running a household, which is an entrepreneur because you're balancing all kinds of businesses, schedules, food, all sorts of things. You're a teacher, you work out of the home, you own your any capacity of activity and responsibility. That receive can be really challenging because we're usually the one allowing all of it or not. And yet it truly becomes the most beautiful flow when we recognize that we open ourselves to receive. Because when we are givers, when we are servants' hearts, we allow others to also be the servants and we be the receivers. It's sometimes hard. I know. Trust me, I know. And the opportunity can be absolutely beautiful, and you open yourself up for many blessings and things that you did not expect. So we'll make sure if you have a friend that wants to learn more about our collective, if they want to learn more about our next class by Stacey next Wednesday, there will be 3 more. We'll make sure that they get the replay if that feels more safe. We understand completely. We want to make sure that you're held because there's a lot of times in life that we rip and we run and we don't stop to smell the roses. And we want to make sure that this is something different, special, and unique because it is sacred to talk about some of the challenges. And it brings out the best when we step into the hardest places. And that greatest place is loss because
mm,
there's many blessings for the experience. And we are stronger, braver, and like Stacey has shared, there's so many things that have come from it she could have never, ever imagined. And the experience she had with her friend last year had such different meaning. And she was such a pillar for her friend. And she was her pillar because she had us standing behind her. She
yeah.
felt us. She felt us in prayer. She felt us on the days that she didn't want to show up. And yet she did because she knew that her friend needed her. And so that structure especially when you're a control, when you're a very independent, perfectionist female, there is something beautiful about that opportunity to stand together. Did you need to share something, Trace?
Okay. So please join us next Wednesday, where we are going to go over the invisible backpack, what we carry, suppressed grief and survival mode.
Beautiful. Thank you, Stacey. I love your heart and your mission and all that you have chosen into to be able to bless others with your experience.
Thank you for allowing me to tell my story. It is healing, and I really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us today.
Mwah!
You're amazing, Stacey.
Thank you. So where are you?
We all are
Keep
together.
fighting. Yes.
Together.
Yes.
Better together.
Better
Yeah,
together.
definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mwah. Bye, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Mwah.